I can understand that desire.
But is that part of the purview of the Mendocino Historical Review Board? The enhancement of a commercial potential for a historic structure, I guess, is the question.
I don't see that I'm enhancing the building. It has very little visual impact. I do have a concern about a rail. I would not, a handrail on this building. That's a safety concern that I share. But my understanding, and I'm not a contractor, is that anything under 32 inches does not need a rail. But anyway, I don't know how to answer your question any clearer than that. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Supervisor Delbar.
Actually, I have no question for you, Mr. Simpson. I just wanted to thank you for the report. I enjoyed reading that. It really gave a lot of history of the building and the Masonic Hall.
It was a lot of fun to do. And it kept revealing itself to me as I went along.
I appreciate it, and I haven't given you as the author your statement at the end of deserving of Category 1 status needs to be saved and restored to its original design. And I appreciate that too, because I think that's what is being proposed here with steps coming out, and instead of coming straight out and doing a 90-degree turn. But as you stated, the grade has dropped, and that's.
Right.
But I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate the report. It was
okay. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Enjoying reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Mr. Simpson? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Tom Kravis, followed by Charles Reinhardt.
Thank you very much. My name is Tom Kravis. My legal residence is 45080 Main Street, Mendocino. First of all, I would like to commend the applicant for the work they have done at the McCallum House over the years. They inspire a very healthy sense of competition. When the Mac House does something, we look at them, we say, how can we equal what they're doing? How can we do better? And I think that sort of competition is healthy. It improves the performance of all the establishments in town, and it increases the value of the historic community to tourists. This particular project, however, I think misses that mark. What I'd like to talk about is 3 or 4 things. One is the process. The second is the historic use of Albion Street, the passageway. Third is parking. And finally, handicap and ADA access. We've heard a little today about how the apple shed was moved and the surrounding structures were constructed, and I'm not sure of the details, but I wanted the board to be sure that you have looked at the process very carefully, because it's the process that I think we're concerned about, that if the process is flawed and the impact of this project appears to some to be negative, that if others follow the same process and that process is flawed, that we, as others have said before, that this could kill the golden goose, that the goose that lays the golden egg. The ability to have a historic town that's preserved is of paramount importance, and we hope that this is not the first step in degrading that aspect of the town. The second point is parking. There's been discussion as to whether or not there's a reduction or loss of parking, and the point is the Mac House and the Mendocino Hotel have large amounts of visitor parking space for their visitors. The small businesses adjacent to us do not. So they rely on a small street and limited parking for their visitors to stop and shop and downstream tourist dollars. Even the loss of part of a parking space, which is used and turned over 3 or 4 times in a day, can limit the resources and revenue of a small business. And they're not here today, but I think that they would share this view. The current street is used by FedEx, other large FedEx, UPS, Cisco, and the convergence of a smaller street, traffic, pedestrians that can hardly walk on sidewalks that are in disrepair is a disaster waiting to be for a John Edwards type of attorney to defend them. I think I've got 6 seconds left. So the last point is the ADA requirements. This is a historic structure, but it requires, I believe, ADA guidelines to be applied. The Mendocino Hotel were targets of an ADA suit many years ago, and it cost us about $150,000. The plaintiff, the attorney, we've got a $60,000 bathroom that's used by people with wheelchairs, which is good. However, this particular project could be a liability not only to the applicant himself, but the county, because the project now is situated on county land. And you've had a survey done by Sally Swanson out of San Francisco, and that company has pointed out all of the ADA deficiencies in the town of Mendocino. And I hope that the board can look at the ADA requirements, access to the disabled, to make sure that this isn't opening Pandora's box to future liabilities as we experienced at the hotel some years ago. I guess I have an extra minute here that I didn't realize. Maybe I can hand that over to Noah. So in summary, there are really 3 or 4 points. First, is the process appropriate? If the process was inappropriate, then other landowners are going to say, you know, I'd like to encroach on the county's right-of-way, and yes, access to the public and being closer to the street is better for business, and I'd like to extend my porch and my driveway and my structure into the county right-of-way. The Mendocino Hotel has 300 or 400 frontage feet on 2 streets, and we're not prepared to do this. But I think that's the potential, and we won't do that, frankly. But I think that is the concern that we have, that someone is going to say, well, the process allows us to do it, let's do it. Preservation.
Mr. Kravis, you weren't a minute short, you were a minute over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So now you're
I was
going
never
into
good at
2.5
numbers.
minutes
I was
over.
never good at numbers, excuse me, I'm sorry. Now it says 2:16, I apologize.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kravis? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Mr. Charles Reinhardt, followed by Wendy Roberts, please.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is Charles Reinhardt. My wife and I own the Joshua Grindle Inn in the Historic District in Mendocino. As a business owner, I support the applicant's right and desire to find the highest and best use for his property. And I, like Dr. Kravis, I commend them on what they've created at the McCallum House. The Apple Shed is in a lush garden area that's reached by paths not only from Albion Street but also from the north. In fact, there are 2 entrances, and they're very welcoming, and they draw people into the attractive paths and gardens. I believe that Albion Street is in a terrible state, that there are encroachments. Certainly this is not the only one. There are many. And what I would hope is that this appeal, that upholding of this appeal, might be a first step back from the precipice. No pun intended, or perhaps it was, that an effort can be made